Coach Tony.
Elite Dental Studios in Yorktown Heights is reinventing the dental experience. They provide you and your family with state-of-the-art dental care, unlike any you've seen before.
I like Elite
Their
Dental.
broad range of dental treatments includes preventative, restorative, cosmetic.
All right, well, I tell you what, we're going to throw that one back in later. That was a dentist group called Elite Dental Studios in Yorktown, which happens to be an amazing group. If you haven't checked them out, go look for Elite Dental Studios on the web. Dr. Coram and his staff are awesome. They are literally awesome. It is just a state-of-the-art place. They got a whole bunch of flat-screen TVs when your kids are getting their dental work done, or you can even watch Sports Center. Or, I think if you really ask nicely, Dr. Coram and his staff will let you have an internet connection to watch YouTube videos of Coach Tony and let them play. Actually, I'm making that up. I'm dropping a plug. Don't worry about it. All right. So, again, minor technical snafu this morning, but, hey, we've had a lot worse. We got plenty more emails. We're talking about parental criticism this morning. Before we get back to your emails, I know we have some more callers here. In fact, we're going to go to our buddy John, who is calling in from Long Island. Hey, John, you're on Let Them Play.
Good morning, Coach Tony. How are you?
All right. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I think it's a great topic you're talking about this morning, and I think some of the callers and emails have hit on most of the points of why we are tougher on our own kids than other kids. I think a big point also has to do with that the amount of time you spend with your child working on certain skills or practicing and stuff like that. That I think you expect, like you said before, I think you want the best for your child, and I think you kind of expect a little more out of your own kid, especially if you're coaching your own child. I think that's one of the biggest steps that you deal with. If your child is on your team and you're coaching them, you kind of almost want to set an example through them. And even though it does not seem fair, I think we always expect more out of our own children than we do other kids. We expect them to pay more attention. We expect them to pick up things a little faster. We expect them to understand that we're not getting on them for the sake of just being disappointed in them. We're expecting more out of them. I think this one hits home for me because I coach my son, and
I knew it. Okay, go ahead, because I'm gonna get you on something here. Go ahead.
My son, some of the other parents said, "Man, you're tough on your son all the time. Oh, you always expected so much out of him." You know what? It made me take a step back a little bit, because you know what? It's supposed to be fun for these kids. And, of course, I'm always going to be tough on my son, whether we're in our, maybe not in front of other people, or maybe the way I talk to him about it, instead of saying, man, you should have done this, or you can say, I understand you're trying, and what made you want to do that, but one point I do want to make is, I promised myself this year, he plays all sports, but he played baseball and he played basketball. I coached him in basketball, and I promised myself I would not get on him once the entire year. I'd work on him if he had any questions. What do you think I need to do, Dad, and stuff like that. And I'll tell you something. He played incredible.
So you didn't get on your son?
Confidence.
You didn't get on him once all basketball season?
I bit my tongue. I swear to you. Okay.
Hey, hang on a second. Hang on a second. Is your son anywhere near the phone?
No.
Oh, you are off the hook, Coach, because you know what?
You know what? You're right. I mean,
hey, hang on, because you're dancing around something, and I want to get your opinion about this now, because this is one that no one's talking about, no one has ever talked about, and as usual, Coach Tony, I'm just smarter than most folks, and we're going to talk about something here. Why do you think it's so different when you coach? Everyone says, well, of course, and of course because I coach. Why is it different when you coach? Because I got a real interesting theory on this one. And you know what? I don't even want you to answer, because I'm not going to assume that you're this way. But there are plenty of us dad coaches who have egos. And the reason we criticize our kid is because at one level, our kids are a reflection of us. And there's a recognition or a lack thereof based on how well or badly the kid plays. If you take a lot of pride in yourself as a coach, don't you think maybe there's a piece there that the parents are looking at you not just as the dad of that kid, but as the person who trains all those kids? And when your kid makes a mistake, you can get on them a little bit more because maybe they're looking at you saying, hey, maybe you're not such a good coach.
I think you're right.
Wow, you just had a breakthrough. John's going to go lay on his couch and cry and think about the past 6 or 7 years of coaching he's done. Isn't that an interesting point? Aren't we kind of egomaniacs a little bit when we coach and we're criticizing our kids?
You know what? You're absolutely right, because I'll tell you why. You like to think it's almost like, okay, I'm going to teach how to fix a car. Okay, if I don't know if I have my kids and they know nothing to do about fixing a car, why would somebody come to me and go, why his own kids don't even know how to change the oil? Why would I bring my car to this guy? It's almost like it is an ego thing to the point where you want someone to see, look, if I work with your kid, if I'm patient with your kid, they might become a better player or a better person, whatever. It is an ego thing. As sad as it sounds, is a small part that is an ego thing.
It's not, and you know what? I don't think it's a small part, because I got to tell you, from some of my own personal experiences, I purposely try not to coach every sport. Not because my wife would kill me, which, she would. There are times when you just need a break. And I've noticed that in the sports where I do not coach my kid, I am so less critical of the kids. It's like no one's looking at me. Hoops was a good example this year for TJ. I coached my daughters, and I was more critical of my daughters when I coached them. I did not coach TJ. And at his games, I literally sat there. I was the quietest of all the parents. I had zero expectations. And I was even able to handle his frustrations a lot better. So, you know what? I started the show by saying we're not going to solve this. I think I had a major, major breakthrough. And John, you were just lucky enough to be part of that conversation, and I do thank you for the call. But listen, that's part of what I wanted today. I want some of you regular schmucks like me to just call in. Let's start batting this thing around, and I think we will start to figure out some things that do make some sense. The studio lines are still open at 914-693-5700, but I am going to get back to some of these emails here. In fact, Steve from Bayside, the home of my beloved Bayside Yankees, where I grew up playing baseball. Well, Steven from Bayside writes in and says, hey, Coach Tony, I think you're making this more complicated than it needs to be. Too many parents, especially when they coach, truly, he touches right on what I just said. Leave it to a guy from Bayside. They truly believe their kids are a reflection of themselves as parents and coaches. So if the kid doesn't perform, the rest of the parents look at them and say, wow, this guy coaches and his kid plays like that. These idiots really need to take a step back and realize nobody cares about you. Well, thanks, Steve. I was just about to sign up for the Steve from Bayside fan club, and now you say nobody cares about me. Parents just want to watch the kids play. Whether they win or lose will have no impact on whether or not you win Coach of the Year. Steve, man, you should have called. That would have been so good. You just stole my thunder. I think we'll get another email or two before we got to go to break. We got this from Jeff in Irvington, who writes in and says, hey, Coach Tony, parents who criticize their kids too much are the ones who turn their kids off to sports altogether and turn them into a statistic. How is a kid supposed to enjoy sports if their parents are always criticizing them and looking for them to improve? Shouldn't a kid have a chance to stop and smell the roses? Well, Jeff, absolutely right. No one's used that term yet, and I use it all the time. Kids, in order to improve and in order to develop a passion and a love for the game, or for anything else they do for that matter, need to stop and smell the roses. I mean, and there are still ways to get your kid to continue on this never-ending path of improvement without making it sound like criticism. And if you position it as this never-ending path and you're always going to have to improve, you're going to turn a kid off. You do have to let them sit and enjoy the fact that they did something really well. And when they bask in it for a while, there may be a way to say, hey, you think you're ready to learn something at this next level. And I think after a kid gets to enjoy the success, I think they'll be much more prone to want to do more. If you literally dismiss hey, okay, so you hit an outside curveball to right field, great. Now let me explain to you what you did wrong, and here's how we get better. There's really, you talk about a carrot and a stick. That's a stick and another stick, and you're hitting your kid over the head with both of them. And I don't think you should expect anything positive to come out of that. So Jeff from Irvington, that's a really good point, and one that is very well taken. Like you said, don't turn your kid into a statistic. 70% of kids quit organized sports before they're 13, 14 years old. Don't be a contributing factor to pushing your kid over the edge to hang up their skates or their tennis racket or whatever the hell they do. You know what? I got another email here from Coach Tom, who writes to us from Mamaroneck, and he says, hey, Coach Tony, it seems obvious to me that this stuff results in resentment, not improvement. I'm no genius, so why can't parents see this too? And that kind of goes hand in hand with what I just started elaborating on with Jeff in Irvington. It's resentment. And, just put yourself in your kid's position. Most of us at some point have a boss that we report to, whether it's, a director or a VP or the CEO of the company. And if you're a CEO, guess what? When you come home, you answer to your spouse at some level. And I'm not going to make a gender-specific comment on this one, but the reality of the situation is, how do you react? Even if your boss, who, by the way, I'm assuming wants nothing but your best production, if a boss gets you in a position where you're feeling resentment and you're not getting the constructive part of this supposed constructive criticism, how do you react? What happens to your production? If someone's sitting on your shoulders, beating on you to do better, always do better, without giving you some sense of recognition and accomplishment and that whole notion of smelling the roses, how can you possibly expect that you're going to improve? At least, how can you expect to improve at a level compared to what you would be doing if someone was treating you the right way and giving that idea of, this is really cool, now let's see what we can do better. I mean, it's the whole idea of, we talked about the praise sandwich a couple of weeks ago. There's constructive criticism, and there are ways to deliver that constructive criticism that will result in what you want. I mean, be selfish about it for a second. Maybe you feel better yelling at a kid or your own kid. But if ultimately your goal is to improve the kid and improve your relationship and, whatever it is, think about the way you're delivering that message. I mean, you can wrap it up in a turd or you can serve it up on a silver platter. Either way, there are certainly some aspects to this that you need to take into consideration as you deliver this message. So I don't want to beat that one into the ground. All right, we got one more email that we're going to hit before we go to break, and this one comes in from Mike in Terrytown. And Mike says, "Hey, Coach Tony, why does this have to be viewed as so negative? I would imagine that most parents who act this way are probably well-meaning and really want their kids to benefit from their own life experiences. Many of us parents have gone through a lot of the same experiences that our kids are going through now, so why shouldn't they want to give their kids a leg up?" Mike, I totally get what you're saying, but think about this for a second. And we say it on the show all the time. What's so bad about a kid learning those same life lessons on their own? Why is it so bad to allow them to experience some failure and some bumps and bruises along the way? If you shelter them from these experiences, I think it does more harm than good. Using criticism as a way to give your kid advanced training, for lack of a better term, is really a little out of whack if you ask me. Just because a kid makes a mistake doesn't mean you immediately have to give them the solution to the problem. And conversely speaking, if a kid's doing well and you immediately assume that they're ready for the next step of development instead of going back to smelling the roses, you rob them of the gratification that comes from that accomplishment. All right, listen, I know we have some more folks on the line and some more emails to get to, but we do have to go to another break. In fact, when we come back from break, I'm being told that we have John's son on the line, and we're going to talk to him when we get back from break. But before we go to break, you got to remember something here, folks. Soccer is not only one of the most popular sports in America, it is a dynamic sport that requires a high physical demand on the body. Without proper training and conditioning, soccer players risk decreased performance and increased injury. Either way, the results can be devastating. Award-winning trainer and performance coach and former guest on the show, Kirk Vickers, has produced something called Rumble Fit Soccer. It's a training DVD that outlines strategies, drills, and exercises to enhance soccer performance and prevent injuries, allowing any player to get more out of their game. So to learn more and to get your own copy of Rumble Fit Soccer, call 1-800-257-3394. Again, that's 1-800-257-3394, or visit them on the web at www.rumblefit.com. Stick around, folks. We'll be right back.